Hi, my name is Yelena, and welcome to Confetti Conversations, a new type of interview series that mixes conversation with confetti to celebrate the beautiful mess of being human. I'm your host and the creator of the Confetti Project, where for the past 10 years, I've been on a mission to bring play back into adulthood with pounds of confetti, through photography, workshops, and now this series. Today's guest is my friend Danielle Carpio, a writer, thought leader, and complex PTSD advocate that's breaking the silence around complex trauma. She's the founder of the healing and complex PTSD community and the unapologetic voice behind Complex Dani, where healing gets loud, real, and radically validating. In today's episode, we talk about what it's like to come from chaos, how to separate who you are from what happened to you, and how healing is messy, non-linear, but possible. I myself have complex PTSD, and it's been a lonely journey at times. This episode is longer than my typical episodes because everything felt so important. Use this as an educational tool and share it with those that you think will benefit from it. Welcome to your new favorite playdate. So tell me what younger Dani was like.
She was very eager to please, eager to be accepted, eager to get attention and love in a very probably unhealthy way, but people didn't realize it. So she was always very, very happy, very I remember being called smiley at some point, happy, fun on the outside and not so much on the inside though.
Well, we were talking about questions for this and how I love to start with this notion of when we try to figure out who we are as adults, your inner child and who you were in the very formative years of your life is like a compass, it can be a blueprint. Yeah. And what you said really blew my mind, and I think it's really important to kind of talk about because I think most people probably relate to what you would say. So when I first asked you that, you were like, well, Yelena, actually, I was born into, chaos.
I think the question you asked was who were you before the trauma? And it was there was no before. For me, the first 3 years of my life were very, very traumatic. I, broke both my collarbones. I cracked my head open. My father was a very abusive man, and it was a very, very abusive household. So I don't think I ever got to, and I think there's a lot of people who can relate with the fact that there was no before trauma. There was right out the womb trauma, if not inside as well. And I think that you never really get to know who you could be as a child or what that is, because instead of, most childhoods you think about kids being able to explore who they could be and play and have fun and all of these things, and developing your personality and testing that out in a safe environment. And when you don't have that, instead of developing what you like or what you don't like or what's fun for you or what's not, you develop coping mechanisms and dissociation or fawning or people pleasing. So for me as a child, I was born into that in a way that I automatically was becoming an expert at these coping mechanisms to survive. And so it's a little bit different when people are born into the trauma lifestyle. Some people don't have a before trauma. We just have a trauma.
It's an interesting thing when you realize that your personality is just a bunch of trauma responses. Like you said, I didn't grow up with safety. I grew up in chaos. For years, I wore masks, numbed the pain, and pretended that I was fine. Yeah. On the outside, I looked successful. On the inside, I was raveling. There was no roadmap for healing from a lifetime of trauma, so I created my own. Yeah. And I think that's something that's so interesting when you don't have a blueprint for something. It's kind of like you're in the dark and you have to light the way. And it's really messy and it's not linear, and you can take some steps back and then, and so what was that like, growing up in a chaotic trauma environment right off the bat as a kid, and then as you grew up? Because normally I would ask someone what disconnected you from your power, right? But when you started growing up, what was that journey like for you to understand, like, oh, like I identify with having complex PTSD or complex trauma or, you know, adverse childhood experiences?
We normalize it, right? Like there wasn't verbiage back then, you know? I mean, we also didn't grow up necessarily in a time frame of technology to be having all this information and knowing that trauma exists. So like I grew up in a time where this was just normal. This was just how life was. Like I didn't even know that what was happening was wrong. Like, it was your normal. It was normal. It was normal. And as kids, when it's not just one situation or one thing, it's a full trauma lifestyle, it doesn't just stop when you turn 18. Like it keeps going, right? And then you are almost finding these like jobs, people, environments that mimic the same thing because that's normal to you. And the chaos feels normal because you know how to handle it. You have the coping mechanisms. You have the personality wrapped around it.
Cozy.
It's cozy. Oh, I'm good in the chaos. I know how to thrive in these chaotic situations. So I think that you look at it as like your strength. Like I thought it was a strength that I could change my personality based on who I was around, right? I thought it was a strength that I could be able to put my needs aside to figure out what you needed and put you first. Like these are strengths, especially, I mean, we live in a society that favors those types of coping mechanisms. And it's like good to be a people pleaser or an overachiever or an independent workaholic and all of these things. For me, it really got to the point where I think I was like 25 or 26, around there, where it was so bad. I was like in my darkest time. I was running Coyote Ugly. I was on the outside happy and fun and living this awesome life, and it was my darkest point. Like I knew, like, again, no verbiage of CPTSD or really trauma or anything along those lines. It was like something has to give. Like if it doesn't, like I'm gonna, trigger warning, end up like killing myself. Like that was the aspect. And so that's when it was kind of like, I need to do something, like something has to give. And that's kind of when I started like the healing journey.
I think the healing journey on one end is very mystical and it's very esoteric, right? But then on the other hand, it could be very logical in the sense of like, you make a different choice than what you've always done, right? And we're given those opportunities like hundreds, thousands of times, right? Day to day. I think for a lot of us, you know, you mentioned that mental health wasn't a thing when we were growing up. All of us had to figure it out on our own, right? And so what was that like for you?
When I started on my journey, I don't think I even realized I was on a healing journey. I think it was just like something has to give. Like either something has to change or I'm just gonna leave. Like that's the bottom line. And I think it really, for me, it started with trying to create a healing lifestyle where I still wasn't necessarily like down the rabbit hole with books or education. It was like, yo, this isn't okay. Like, let me just remove the people, the places, the environments, everything from my world and just focus on the things that make me feel good. And I just naturally started creating this like lifestyle that was more helping me go in the direction of healing versus going and just staying in this trauma nightmare. And as I continued on, obviously I started going to therapy and that was helpful, but only for so far. So then it kind of went into, you know, the internet and finding books and YouTube channels and anything and everything that could possibly help make sense of it. You know, I've tried a lot of different things, and I think the biggest thing is that healing is not one size fits all, and what works for you might not work for me, and vice versa. And when it got to the point of, you know, I think I was on my journey for like 5-6 years before I even learned what CPTSD was or got diagnosed with it. And it changed everything once you have the verbiage.
So, complex PTSD.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, first of all, it's not in the DSM, right?
Not recognized in the United States.
So what is complex PTSD? How is it different from complex trauma? Also, how is it different or the same as childhood trauma?
Yeah, great questions. Great questions. You might have to reel me back in as I go on my journeys. So complex trauma, So complex trauma is actually what happens to you, right? So complex trauma is prolonged exposure to trauma, most likely in environments that are not safe and you can't escape, or the victim perceives that you can't escape the situation. Whereas CPTSD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorder, is the result of that. Just because you experience complex trauma does not mean you will have CPTSD. Just like if you experience trauma, whether that's a singular car accident, a natural disaster, whatever it may be, doesn't necessarily mean you'll have PTSD. So trauma and complex trauma are what happens to you, whereas PTSD and CPTSD are the result of it. And complex trauma differs from, if we break it down, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, is coming from singular abuse, a car accident, natural disaster, a single situation, whereas complex PTSD comes from prolonged exposure to trauma. It most commonly happens in childhood, although it doesn't only happen in childhood. However, I would say that, it can come from domestic violence in adulthood. It can come from bullying. It can come from medical trauma, racial trauma. There's so many things that can cause CPTSD. CPTSD is, it's similar to PTSD in ways where it can overlap with the symptoms. However, CPTSD has its own set of symptoms. Difficulty regulating emotions, right? Sometimes we can't identify them. We can't even understand that we're having them. They're so explosive and overwhelming. Distorted perception of abuser, where we, can take the belief of the abuser as our own, or that they have total control over us. Negative self-view is a really, really big one for CPTSD, that toxic shame that we hold with us, that we are there's something fundamentally wrong with us. Interpersonal difficulties, having difficult relationships, there's a lot of just no trust, right? And again, a lot of us go to abusive types of situations because they feel comfortable. Emotional flashbacks is a really, really big one. PTSD flashbacks usually come from a specific memory, a specific situation. You actually have a visual that goes with it. Whereas emotional flashbacks are when you have the emotional state mimicking what it was in the past, but you might not understand where it's coming from. You might not even know you're in one. So you're actually going back to these emotional states, these very distraught times in your past, and you are physically, emotionally experiencing them, and it's a lot. Physical symptoms, cognitive distortions, distorted ways we think, black and white thinking, catastrophizing, where the worst possible situation is going to happen, emotional reasoning. There's just so many symptoms with CPTSD that don't come from PTSD. So for me, when I discovered it, it was like a light bulb had come off. And I realized there wasn't something wrong with me. There was something wrong with what happened to me. And having this list of symptoms helped me start managing them, start being able to be like, oh yeah, that check. That's with me here.
For me, I have a mother wound. And that was kind of the relationship that really was that stemmed from me having very low sense of worth, negative self-identity. And that's where I kind of started with my journey of understanding that I also have complex PTSD, where I literally read all the books and found a therapist that specializes in maternal abuse of narcissistic daughters.
Which is amazing that you found somebody like that.
Literally took me 6 months. So I went into it like that, and this notion of mother wound, narcissism, that was kind of the first verbiage that I was exposed to. And then I actually think what you said before, the book, What Happened to You, by Oprah and Dr. Perry, that was actually the most mind-blowing moment for me. I think I was meant to read it at that specific moment in my life, because like you said, it's it wasn't you're gaslit so much amidst this process, and you really start to internalize that you're crazy because you're not just taking it, you're questioning it, you're challenging it, you want something different, but you don't have any frame of reference or modeling, right, to do that. And so that book really blew my mind, because it was oh, what happened to me wasn't normal, and there's very real impacts. For me, I just go into fight or flight so easily, and I think the biggest thing was when things happen to you when you're developing, it's such a sensitive time for your nervous system, for your stress response system, for hormones, every single thing, that I'm like, oh, like this happened to me. Like I wasn't able to learn how to emotionally regulate because I was too busy helping my mom emotionally regulate and like keep the peace. And so
And in the first 7 years of your life, your nervous system is literally just a sponge, absorbing every single thing around you. So if you are not taught how to self-regulate or even be able to co-regulate with a parent, your nervous system isn't, again, trained to actually function regularly or regulate at all. Instead, it's just straight up surviving, which is where these coping mechanisms of fight or flight and always going to that, because that's what your system needed to do to stay alive in that environment. The problem is, like, it's good that happened because you're here, right? Like, you're here, you made it, that's good. The problem comes when you're no longer in that environment and you're an adult now and you still can't self-regulate and you don't have anybody that you can co-regulate and you're still living in that same blueprint. Like, your nervous system, the first 7 years, whatever you're dealing with, is the blueprint for the rest of your life. And if you don't start paying attention to it or have any awareness of it, you'll live the rest of your life miserable and dysregulation and thinking that, like, it's all your fault. Mm-hmm. So, like, kudos to you for going on this journey, you know?
It is not for the faint of heart. I mean, even the other weekend within my family of origin, like this story of like, you're too much, you're too this, you're too, right? Like the labels and the judgments from people that they can't hold space for their own emotions. So it's a lot easier to project, right? Like we're mirrors, like all of us are mirrors. It reminds me of something I read where when you were a child, you did the best you could and it was adaptive, all of these survival mechanisms, right? But then as an adult, it becomes maladaptive, right? And it starts to really hurt you. So walk me through that process of like getting to this moment of like what I would think would be a lot of unlearning and being, you know, navigating the messiness of it all. I know messiness for both of us, but, you know, is a really big kind of foundation for you of like acknowledging that it's messy and that we're messy and that it's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
And that there's beauty in that.
Yeah, you know, that's why I branded and named, you know, my brand with Complex Dani, because we're so complex, right? We have so many layers, and that's not a bad thing. That's okay to have so many layers. And when you have C-PTSD, you have even more layers.
All the colors in the crayon box.
And more. And some of those melted together somehow and created some other colors. There's a very big misconception with healing that it's beautiful and it's like a destination that you reach.
And that it feels good.
Yeah. Healing, am I allowed to swear?
Sure.
Okay. Healing fucking sucks. Healing fucking sucks. It hurts. It feels so bad. It just feels so bad.
But that's the thing, you have to feel it.
It's that aspect of the pain that you felt when you were a kid that was so much, right? Because you're a kid and it's so painful in general, right? When even, you know, your mom saying mean things to you or whatever, like that's already painful enough. And then you're dealing with it on your own, which is another layer of pain. And then you don't have any tools to deal with it. So you compartmentalize it, you put it in a box back on a shelf.
You eat some food, you smoke some
weed, you do
whatever.
all the things to cope to get out of it. And the reality is now why it's so intense is because you've had layer after layer after layer of that feeling that you've never dealt with. And it doesn't go away. It never goes away.
1,000 paper cuts.
Yeah, just over and over and over again. And like when something hits you now, you're not just dealing with now. You're dealing with now and every single other time you felt that wound that you never dealt with. And that for decades, right? Like we're not that young anymore. We're like, we've been dealing with this for so long. These are so much buildup. Like anything that you're ignoring, it doesn't go away. You can try to drink it away, you can try to smoke it away, you can try to work it away, you can try to do all these things. It is not gonna go away until you face it. One thing that I will say, because there's this misconception with the feel it to heal it, where like you have to feel it to heal it, right? Yes, and that advice, if you don't have a safe enough environment to be able to feel it or the tools to be able to process it, you can re-traumatize yourself by just sitting in it, right? I spent years sitting in to feel it, right? Just being like, okay, I need to feel this. How much more do I need to feel this? When is this gonna go away? But I wasn't processing anything. I was just sitting in it.
You are, let me find what note card this is on.
We went on a journey.
What are you?
I'm a human, healing.
Well, you're a massive, okay, so not only are you a trauma survivor, right? You created Healing and Complex PTSD Community, which has a hub, and you also created Healing and Complex PTSD Foundation as well. And so we're gonna get all into that in the sense of like how you became a voice in this space that really needed a voice. But before that, are you ready to play with confetti?
Yes, I'm so ready.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
How do you feel right now?
I feel so good. I feel joy and happy. My inner child feels, she just loves playing with confetti and she never knew.
I know, it's like even me taking video and photos of you, it's like so contagious. Yeah. Like just even witnessing it. Yeah. And a little bit of ASMR for you. Like always get it.
I love it.
So not only are you committed to healing your own complex PTSD, but you are stepping into this role of being a community leader, an advocate, a voice for others. So walk me through like, what has that been like of like starting a, the foundation, the community, a hub to really, you're one of like the leading voices for something that has been like invisible and not really talked about for so long.
Yeah. I like immediately felt like shrinking when you said leader too. I was like, no, not me. I didn't know that was gonna be my journey. I didn't. When I started healing in CPTSD, it was really just supposed to be like a place for me to like make sense of it all. And everybody else showed me that it was a community, and like it just grew and people were sharing, and everybody showed me that I wasn't alone and that there were other people like me. And I think that really, it just like changed the game when I realized how many other people were suffering. And I think when I realized that CPTSD wasn't recognized, it enraged me. Like I was so angry because I was like, I have been suffering for so long thinking there's something wrong with me, and there's not something wrong with me. There's something wrong with what happened to me, and like I didn't know this because the systems are broken and it's not recognized. And if we can help other people know that this exists, then like other people won't be suffering in silence as long. And I think that really pushed me to be like, I don't want other people to be suffering like I did. So it kind of organically created a community. I say I accidentally started a community because I didn't know. And through the last 5 years of running it, it's been really cool, very stressful. It's been a lot, but it's been really awesome. And we created the Community Hub, which launched in September of last year. So it's like our own little space outside of social media with, again, all those resources that we didn't know about. Our community's been sending books, YouTubes, podcasts that have been helping them, and we've been collecting that, and so that's all inside of the hub. And then we have courses, we have support circles, we have like 17 events a month that we host virtually for people to just connect with other survivors so they know they're not alone, and it makes their healing a little bit more approachable and not as difficult as like what we went through with it. I just feel like there's this responsibility to make sure that people aren't suffering in silence like I did for so long, because at the end of the day, like, if I didn't find CPTSD, I don't know that, like, I would even still be here, you know what I mean? So, like, to think about how many people we've lost along the way that could have been saved if they knew that there was a name for what they were suffering, and that, again, it's not their fault. There's nothing wrong with them. There's something wrong with what happened to them. So I think it comes from my trauma response / at the same time, like, just trying to make it easier. Like, I know I'm never gonna be healed. I know there's not like an end game, but you're also able to, it gets better, right? It's not as dark as it always was. Yes, I will always probably be dealing with triggers and symptoms, but they're manageable now. Like, I can at least be managing them so they're not in the driver's seat. Like, I'm in the driver's seat, and that's possible. And I think I didn't know that was possible. And just like, you know, reading other people's stories as CPTSD is getting more mainstream and people are knowing about it and there's more people talking about it, like, when you hear stories of other people who have been there, it releases a little bit of that shame. And it also, like, allows you to heal a little bit. So I think us sharing and talking about these things can actually save people and make them stop suffering. And I don't want anybody to feel like I did at all. And here's what really, like, grinds my gears. It's like trauma informed is such this, you know, trauma informed is becoming more mainstream and everybody's trauma informed now. But you can't be trauma informed if you're not talking about CPTSD. And people aren't. Like, you're not actually trauma informed then. Like, if you are not talking about CPTSD or know about CPTSD, you're not trauma informed. Like, you're missing a whole entire thing. And it just, it drives me wild. And that's what the foundation is about.
But this is why, just for everyone watching, you are pushing to create an awareness day or month.
Yeah, so CPTSD Awareness Day is September 2nd. And we kind of deemed the entire month of September because one day is not enough for CPTSD awareness. And yeah, I think it's really important that CPTSD, you know, a lot of people are just diagnosed with PTSD and then they don't have these lists of other symptoms that actually make sense of what they're going through or releasing that shame that comes, like, that we can release when we find out that CPTSD. And also, if you're watching this and you didn't get relief when you were diagnosed with CPTSD or think you have CPTSD, that's okay too. Like, because a lot of people don't feel that light bulb moment like I had, and that's okay. And again, that just goes back to, like, healing not being one size fits all. And it's okay no matter what way you feel. And, like, just every way you're feeling is, like, valid, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So where does joy and play fit into all of this? Like, you mentioned that play is really hard for you, but you know that it's something that you need, and it's kind of this reclaiming, right, of, like, space for yourself and your inner child, and then also that joy isn't something that just, like, happens to you, right? It's something that's, like, really intentional. But, like, navigating hard things, you're like, you got that. Like, you're like, I've had a whole lifetime of experience.
I know how to navigate the chaos, but joy is difficult. And I think for a lot of people with CPTSD, joy feels very unsafe. It feels very unsafe, and almost like the moment that you are feeling it, it's like, wait, when's the other shoe gonna drop? When's everything gonna fall all apart? And I think that makes it really, really hard. And I mean, I have developed a relationship with my inner child, so she gets very, like, vocal with me when I'm pushing too hard. Like, the lead up to the nonprofit launching and the community hub launching, like, she was like, yo, what are we doing? What's going on? And I was like, don't worry. Confetti Project is in September, the first one that I went to with you, and I was like, don't worry, that day's all about you. And she's like, oh, fine. And, like, that day, she just, like, came out, right? And she, you know, it is a lot more intentional. I have to be intentional about it. It's very hard. It doesn't come naturally. I try to plan events inside of the hub so that other survivors are doing it with me, because if I have to do it by myself, it generally, like, just doesn't happen. And I think my partner is very helpful in that. Like, my inner child really likes him because he's, like, silly and he brings out her and he allows her to, like, you know, we're walking into a restaurant and there's, like, one of those coloring sheets for kids, right? And she's like, and he's like, do you want that? And my head is like, no. And she's like, mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm like, no, it's okay. And he's like, and he, like, grabs it anyways and puts it down and lets her come out. So I think it's just it's also good to have people around you that can help bring that out as well. And having people, right, like you, I think I am all for everything Confetti. She loves it. She's like, how can I play more?
We didn't really get to play right? And also like a big part of playing is being present, and you know, it's spontaneous and it's a little scary, you know, because it is so in the unknown. You don't know where it's going to take you. And so every time anyone with any sort of trauma, you know, gets out of their comfort zone enough to play and to see how play can kind of like jumpstart joy, that is like so healing, because you're basically saying like, I'm going to trust this, right? And I'm gonna feel safe.
Yeah, you're gonna live in that moment.
My body. Exactly.
And I remind my clients and even the community all the time, like, play is a really big part of healing. Like, it really is. Like, and especially us who intellectualize so much, right? Like, we're like, no, we need to make sense of what we're doing and stuff. And it's like, no, sometimes you just have to, I always have breakthroughs when I allow myself to play and just release everything. And I think it's also, you know, for me, in such the heaviness of the trauma space that I'm in, it's really, really important for me to do things to break outside of that. I think intentional, at least for now, is how I'm like forcing myself to be intentional with play when the opportunity arises, or planning it like today.
If you could leave survivors listening today with like one core message, what would it be? What do you want people to like take away from this conversation?
I think like most important is for, you know, especially survivors to know that like it makes sense of how you feel. Like, it makes sense how you feel, and there's nothing fundamentally wrong with you. There's something fundamentally wrong with what happened with you, and healing doesn't have to look perfect, and it doesn't have to look like everybody else, because it really is finding your own tools and your own things that work for you, and that's okay. And for me, you know, tapping and getting back into the body and playing and, you know, community. For me, community is a lot of what helps. So I think it's finding what works for you and not shaming yourself if your path doesn't look like everybody else's. It's not supposed to, because trauma is so like subjective. All of our experiences are its own, and I just think it's important for us to choose ourselves at the end of the day. That's really what healing is us choosing ourselves over everything else. But I think like the opposite of trauma is play in some ways.
What is joy to you, if you had to define it?
Complicated. I think it's something that I'm still searching for / already have it within me. It's weird.
I actually believe that.
Yeah.
I think inner joy is something that's a natural resource we have within us, regardless of whatever's going on. I think it's like a state of being, like an essence that you can kind of like a muscle. Like, you can kind of use it when you need it.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, perspective, you know, big picture, right? Just gratitude for being alive, right? Like, that's the baseline kind of.
And it's okay if it doesn't feel good at first. I think everybody thinks that it needs, just like healing, right? It needs to feel good. It needs to be happy. It's gonna feel uncomfortable if you've never been in a state of joy before, and that's okay.
A lot of what I do with Confetti is helping people, teaching people how to expand their capacity for it. And so anytime you're trying to expand anything, it's going to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, it's really going to be rooted in getting out of your comfort zone.
But
You can't achieve joy or greatness inside of your comfort zone.
How do you utilize joy when you're going through very hard things? How do you alchemize the turbulence, the density, the pain with joy? It's not like a slapping joy over it. It's more of a mixing.
Well, you need both.
Yeah.
And because I mean, at the end of the day, healing isn't about getting rid of the trauma or getting rid of the pain. It's not something that makes it disappear. And I think that's what a lot of people with that misconception of healing is like, well, when I heal, it's just gonna be like better. Everything's gonna, you're still human. You're still a human. You're still gonna have emotions. There's still gonna be crappy days. Like, you have to embrace both the pain and the good in the healing. Yeah, the duality of it. Like, it really is like, life's still gonna suck sometimes, but you can have joy in it, and it doesn't always have to be so chaotic or intense.
I feel like the joy really helps cultivate hope.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And really, this is full circle. We're that complex that we can feel joy and heartbreak and pain and grief and rage at the same time.
All at the same time. Oh my goodness. complex beings. We're complex beings.
Lots of colors, lots of nuance. So I like to end with a question that's kind of like opposite of what people have heard, which is, what would your younger self tell you now?
Ooh.
If they could see you today, what would they say to you?
I think she would say, like, well, first off, I know she would be like, I'm so proud of you. And also, I feel like she would kind of be like, I told you so. I just feel like there were so many years, like, I didn't plan ever to be the age I am now, right? I didn't think I'd ever make it past 30. So, like, I think that deep down there was part of me that, like, knew that, like, I was gonna make it through even though I didn't think that I would. And I think that little part is, like, coming through, like, kind of told you that you'd, like, it'd be okay and, like, you'd figure it out. And, like, so I think she'd kind of probably, like, laugh at me in a way, in, like, a good, loving way, but kind of like, yo, we did it. I think she'd be really, really proud of me. And also be like, dude, you also need to play more.
Play more, Dani.
Play more. Like, let's do more of it. Just play more. So, yeah.
That's the takeaway.
Yeah, play more. Play more. Where am I looking? Play more, play more, play more, play more.
So the very last thing that I like to do, we're gonna do that final confetti throw together. Ready, set, go.
It was so much.
That's the point.